Muted. I just realized I was muted, so let's try that again. Hey everybody, welcome to Pro Tips. My name is Wade Acuff. This is the unmuted version. Yeah, we're going to get started on adding some, taking your images from Illustrator and adding some textures over in Photoshop. But we have a couple of things I want to show in Illustrator. I was just saying hi to chat when I realized I was muted. Hi chat, what's up? Yeah, that was the warm-up. That was the you saw a little bit behind the scenes. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into Illustrator and take a look at what's happening. Well, not super outstanding, but I was doing some sketches in Illustrator to kind of get an idea for like a little ray gun sticker that I was making. I don't know why this one turned out to be like a little glue gun, and this was a little bit better. And then I went ahead and like jumped into full-on sketch mode. And I wasn't gonna talk about this, but this is kind of the final-ish version, because we're gonna take it into Photoshop and ramp it up a little bit with textures. We're gonna finish this off with the textures. As a little I've been working with the Blob Brush. That's kind of my, I don't know why, but that's kind of my go-to. And if you're familiar with Illustrator at all, you'll know that the Blob brush is Shift B. And I will real quickly demonstrate how I would make something like this. Just like super quick, by the way. So I've got my Blob brush. I make a blob. Bam. Looks great, right? Looking pretty good. Uh-oh. It's the wrong type. Here we go. Let's try that again. Shift B, Blob Brush. There we go. Make our blob. And you can see when I select it, it's all just an outline. Right? Super easy. Edit, go to, or Object, go to Path, and go to Smooth. Change the slider all the way over. We get something smooth like that. Do this for multiple shapes. I keep accidentally pressing. Make sure that you're on the Blob brush, which looks like this. I'm going to change the color real quick. Actually, I just want the color of the brush. It's okay. I'll do it after the fact. So there's our little handle. Let's select that guy. It actually made its own thing, but I will change that in a moment. Go back to my Blob brush. Change the color. I don't know, something like that. And then I will do a little swipe through. I will select both objects and then go over to the shape builder. And if you press Alt or Option and strike through, you get a little line that cuts off and you get a flat little shape. That's exactly how I made this image right here. Some of it I love the pen tool, don't get me wrong, but that is kind of where I'm at with quick illustrations. And let's talk about something else. I can't move on into adding textures in Photoshop until I talk about the Touchtype tool. I know a lot of you probably already know about it, but if you don't, that's what this is all about. This zap is all live type. And I'll just start from scratch. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to hop into a new layer. Press T for your type tool. And let's say zap. Line this up somewhere in there. Doesn't look great, have to admit. I'm gonna go check. I think it was bovine. Let's see. Yeah. So let me go in here because also just in case you don't know, you can filter to add your favorites in here. Right now it's not selected. If I turn that back off, I was using this earlier, and it's a great way to make sure that you filter for add this filter so that you can add these typefaces or whatever to the current projects that you're working on. You can just quickly select them. All right, so we've got zap, cool, right? Let's go ahead and select a color that works a little bit better. Hide that. Now, Shift T is your friend, takes you right into the Touchtype tool. And man, when this came along, I know a lot of people were like, for a hot minute, I know this is old now, but for a hot minute, the intertwine was an amazing thing. But for me, Touchtype has always been kind of the coolest, quickest way to add some variety to your type without getting, creating outlines and then moving things around separately, and you can still keep everything live. But a couple things you can do. You saw me just rotate. You can rotate with this. That's cool. You can also stretch vertically and horizontally. And you can also scale up, which, let's just do that. Let's add a little bit of scale just to make this a little bit more interesting. And again, this is all live, so, nothing like having some live type. If I want to come in here and I'm going to go back to my type tool, and let's say we want to change this to zip zap. Cool. Oops, always do that. Got to press escape. It's one of those type tool hazards. Shift T. We can go back in, and now we can arrange these how we like. But like I said, it's still live type. So now I can come in here and add an exclamation point. Back. Oops, I did it again. Let's see. There we go. Touch type tool. Change the scale. Make it amazing. Anyway, just something that if you didn't already know that existed, it's there. It's really cool for quick layout of things. Let's check in with chat. I do this constantly. Yes, the typing probably with the it's while you're still live. Yeah, definitely with variable fonts. Keys is chiming in. Good stuff. All right, so we're going to take this image and go over into Photoshop, which is already, oh, wow, you get to see a preview. So we're going to do all of this with just some textures, and most of it without painting, technically without painting. Let's go back to where we started. And we don't need this group. So all I've done here is add a mask. I just selected the outer shape so that you don't see it. And we've added a mask here. And I added a background with a solid color. But we're going to use our libraries. And what I want to do, and what I highly recommend doing if you are, need to do something on the cheap. So the whole idea here is to use some shapes and some textures that we find over on stock.adobe.com/free. That's right, /free. And you can see up here, all I've done is added a little halftones to the search, and you get 25 pages of halftones. Now, I've decided to use halftones because the laser little pistol thing is kind of a retro-ish, and I thought, yeah, that'll work. But this will work with anything. All these techniques will work with anything. I don't know. Let's see. We can find something. Maybe we want an array of these, and you can license this for free. You can license this here. It's going to ask me what type I want. It already knows what type I want. It adds it to my library. But if you have saved a previous image to another library, you can manage your libraries directly in Adobe Stock and change to whatever you want. And it will place that image you just licensed into the library. Now, I don't know if we're going to use this or not, but it's there if we want it. All right, so for the basics of this, I'm going to hide our brushes for now. And let's take a look at some of these. Yeah, so this is what we just added, that little halftone, a bunch of circles. Not really going to use that, but just as a base, I want to add some grunge and some flavor to this. And I'm going to drag in, and you could just drag it down here, or you can drag it on top. It doesn't really matter. If you drag it down to the layer, it's going to try and fit to the size. Now, I know that this is big and chunky because I've been working with it. And I'm just going to go ahead and scale it up. But then for my purposes, I'm going to go ahead and rasterize it after it renders so that it's not as chunky. And then, using your blend modes, that's going to be one of our big friends today. I'm going to go with multiply and then change the fill. You could use opacity if you wanted. I want to, let's see, I want to change this, and we're just going to play with this image with these different textures throughout. And like I said, this can apply to anything. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be an image from Illustrator, but there's a lot of people that use this technique to kind of add a little bit more flavor to their Illustrator illustrations. I'm also going to clip this. If you hover over between the layers and press down Alt or Option, you'll get a clipping mask option. So that'll just lock it in to our image before and after. There's a lot of ways you can do that. But let's jump into this halftone because there's a couple things. I'm just going to grab, I think this is the one. Oh no, this is the one. Okay. Nope. Got too many now. But I want to add highlights and shadows to this area, and I'm not going to use a brush to do it initially. I'm just going to grab this image, drag it on top, probably scale it down just to cover. I want to keep the dots fairly large still, but I want to cover the main part of the gun, the little laser pistol. And I'm going to control this whole thing with the lasso tool and masks. And let me jump in here a little bit so you can see what we're doing. So I did switch over to the lasso tool, and you'll notice up top there are options for your lasso tool. I love working with the additive. The first one is just new selection every time you select. The second one is add, then you have subtract, and then you have intersect. And I'm just going to grab a shape that or a few shapes that I think will work really well as shadows. So with add on, I'm going to leave that where it is. I don't know, maybe right, I don't know, maybe right here under on this little grip. And all of this stuff can be adjusted, but you can see I've got lasso selection. All I have to do is come over here and click on my make mask, layer mask, and we start to have a little bit of shadow. Now, this is, you know, great and everything. I'm going to go ahead and change this fill down a little bit just so we get some of that. It's not super harsh. Now, if you don't like how this turned out, or if you don't like the position of the lasso, we are going to work with a brush. Super simple. Into our brushes, I'm going to go all the way to the top. For me, in the general brush, I'm just grab a hard round. And here's a little tip. So if you know how mask works, white reveals and black conceals. But here's a tip. Here's a tip. So right now I am painting with white. So I'm revealing more and more of that halftone texture. If I am so inclined to use the tilde key, as I normally do when painting in Photoshop, it will allow you to paint with black on your layer. So the reason I mention this specifically is because if I'm on black as the painting with black and I'm hiding everything, tilde key will not paint white. So if you choose white, you can kind of use it as a brush on, brush off without having to adjust anything. So we're kind of just massaging this into place, brushing this on. You could just add the lasso if you're not really, you know, if you're comfortable using a mouse, but you're not really, you don't have a stylus like I do, or, you know, you don't have that option. Keeping it easy. Let's see. All right, yeah, I don't like how this worked out. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit, just to make these edges kind of a little bit more crisp. And that's great. Okay, cool. Maybe a little bit back here. Maybe there's a little something happening. All right, so we've got some texture going on. Well, we've done some shadows. You know, we got to have some highlights, right? Well, you can use the exact same texture for the highlights with just a couple of quick little adjustments. Let me hide a few things here so you can see this a little better. I'm going to copy this and drag it up. So I've held down Alt, and it gives you a little plus sign or a little extra addition sign when you move it. So it's just adding a layer. I'm going to get rid of our mask. And I'm going to invert this image by pressing Control or Command and I, and it changes that. I'll go ahead and take this all the way to the max fill. So you can see it just inverts that black image to a white image. And I'm going to leave this at 100%. And let's see. Maybe an overlay. Let's try an overlay to begin with. Now you could go in and do the lasso thing, but why should we do that when I've already told you how you can just use a hard round for this? And I do want this to be all black. So I'm going to press Alt when I press my mask so that it fills it in all black. And now I should be able to, with my color selected to white, there we go. So I'm revealing some of this, and that's going to be really bright on this little metallic area. Something like that. Super easy. Again, the tilde key works with this in this way as well. All right. Okay, so we got a little something there. Again, the blend modes, you can choose what you'd like. I'm going to go ahead. We have it on overlay right now. I could move it to lighten, or we could just go back to normal. Normal actually looks pretty good. The halftone, I would say, is not textury enough in this mode. I do like it at a light. I don't know. I'm going to move it back. I'm going back and forth. I'm going to go back to an overlay. You could always multiply that just for a little boost if you want. So you basically have two overlay layers. Let's see. But just so it's not confusing, I'm going to get rid of that one. Another thing to note when you're working with this mask and with halftones or other textures, you could use a textured brush to paint with. So for instance, I'm going to close this. I'm going to go into my brushes here. Let me scale this down so I can see what I'm doing. I have this weird mountain brush. I don't know what I was using for this for last, but let me jump in here. And for some reason it's on dissolve. It's not supposed to be. Switch that back to normal. But you can see, let me do this. Let me turn this back to normal. So you can see that I'm adding it, but it is giving it some texture. And I like that look. It gives it a little bit more grunge to it. I would suggest not using a soft round for this, only because halftones usually kind of end. They don't have a, or screen tones. This is a traditional way you could use screen tones with traditional work. They don't really soften like this, if that makes any sense. So I would not suggest doing that. But yeah, just using a textured brush is a good way to kind of keep things grungy. I might come in here and add some more to this. Let's see. Okay, so I'm seeing, I guess we can jump into that now. Let's see. Yeah, dissolve it. Yeah, that was another option. You can switch this to dissolve and you'll get little speckles. I like to merge those down if I'm going to use that, just to kind of soften them, leave it a little bit more. But sometimes it's a little too harsh. All right, what else do I want? I'm going to put this back to lighten, or overlay, sorry. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, someone mentioned brushes, so let's jump into brushes. Now, originally this whole idea was like, oh, you can use the lasso tool, download some textures, select the areas you want. You don't have to do any painting. But I mean, if I'm going to be honest and true to myself, there's got to be some painting. There's got to be some painting. And wouldn't you know it, who would be there to help us out? Kyle T. Webster has a great brush pack that has halftones in it. Let's see, I think I have the site ready to look at. Yeah. So if you go, I think Val's going to drop a link and you get all these brushes. You can get all these brushes for free if you have a CC subscription. And down, did I already miss it? Where did I go? Where did it go? I think I missed it. I think I was on it and then I moved. Yeah, there we go. Halftones right here. Just look for halftones. The key to these is they are pressure sensitive, which why wouldn't they be, right? So let's just add a new layer and check out how that works. So I've already downloaded these. They're all the way at the bottom. It comes with 2 folders. One is the screen tones, which I was just talking about. Now, if you don't know the screen tone method for, you kind of see it more in, I would say anime or manga. When people do illustrations that aren't from print, but they want it to look like print, there's some applique papers you can put on that give you screen tones. So he has a whole folder full of screen tones, which you can do that kind of technique with. But there's one brush in here, and I'm going to scale this back up here, and I think it's the tiny, let's see, circle range tiny. I think that's the one. Yeah, so there's a reverse and a large for this. But we have a new layer, and I'm just going to show you how this works. Really light pressure is just these tiny little dots. You know, that's not bad. But if you get a little more heavy-handed, you get to add, you know, a little thickness to these, which I like because it gives you a way to add a gradient, and it keeps that grid consistent. So you're just painting, and it's basically deciding which areas is going to be lighter by having smaller dots, and which area is going to be a little bit heavier by having the larger dots. And that's all depending on your pen pressure. The other idea that I wanted to make sure that you knew about, or the other thing I wanted you to know about before getting too far into this, if the scale is wrong, like you're like, oh man, these dots are way too small. Well, you can adjust that just by going into your brush setting, going to your texture, and then increasing the scale. So I'm going to bump the scale up so you can kind of see what we're talking about. And you can see how much bigger these dots are. Now you will have to save this as a new brush to keep that setting consistent. So just a heads up on that. But let's go back to the other one. Another thing I wanted you to note, and this is, I don't know if this is like, I may have to talk to Kyle, see what's up. But just to note, as you try and erase this, like if you're using the same brush, if you're using the halftone brush, if you're using the tilde key like we were before, oh, I changed the scale, so hold on. Okay, there we go. You'll notice it creates a little circle inside, like it's deleting. Now you can get rid of it, but it doesn't just get rid of the dot. It makes this little circle. I don't know, it's kind of cool because then you can start painting back in. I wouldn't say it's quite as traditional, but if you have a big blob, you can put little dots, and you can kind of add little dots back in. I don't know, it's kind of fun. There may be something I'm missing, but I just want to let you know how that works. If you think you're doing something wrong, that's just how the brush works. That's not you. But I think that's about all I had for adding painting. Oh, that was the one thing. So there is a reverse for this. So that gives you a full-on reverse. And it's on the same grid. So if I'm painting, I'm adding a highlight, it's on the same grid. You can see the little dots. And if I fill this in completely, they completely go away. But it's all pen pressure based as well. And I think that is going to do it for us today. What else was there? Oh, maybe we can add, before we run out of time, I do have some more grungy textures here. Just small, if I can find them, if I can get this. Go away, color. Go away, brush. There we go. All right, let's see, halftone, texture. Let's see what this does, shall we? I think this is just a paper texture, yeah. These are pretty simple. You just add with a overlay, multiply. Let's see. You can scale it up to hit everything, and then use our little original mask from the beginning. But what we could do is put all of these into a group, and then add that mask to the group, so that everything gets eliminated and you still have all your paper textures and everything in the group. You could do this with the image as well. I could hide this if I wanted to, and then drop that into the group. It would of course have to be at the bottom, but just as an idea, ways to use your masks a little bit more efficiently. But yeah, that is going to do it for us. This is a little preview for a little before and after. This is where we started, and this is where we ended, just by adding some simple textures. I hope you learned something from this. If not, don't come at me. If so, please come at me. But that's going to do it. We have Whitney Anderson coming up next with how to create a brand for a small business. And we will see you guys real soon. I hope. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.